Welcome to the 90 Central podcast, where we discuss growing a business, working in media, and building a team that we love. I'm Will Stewart, CEO of 90 Central, joined by John Godwin. Hey, John. How are you?
Hello.
And your title is production leader.
That is me.
Yeah.
Yes.
But you really actually have more than that. Like you're kind of our multi-tool.
Yes, I am. I'd like to have all the hats.
And you like it that way. Like with your working genius and with your Enneagram profile, we've discovered that give you variety.
Exactly. I like to have options of what I want to do.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, what did I do today? I can just say one of the ones I didn't do.
Hey, that works. Yeah. That's perfect. So there's a lot of different roles on set as well. And there's with our company, the size that it is, sometimes we have the smaller sets where it's, 3 or 4 people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have, 30 people on set. And so it can always vary.
It does.
Yeah. But today we're talking about a very specific role, the first AC or first camera assistant.
Yes. Yeah. Which is the role I usually don as we do production.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're awesome at it.
Thank you.
So when we send out call sheets to clients, it would list like who the positions are, who's going to be there, when everybody needs to be there. Mm-hmm. People might look at the first AC and go, "What is that?" They see all these. They probably know what director is.
Right.
Then there's DP, which is director of photography, and they might know what that is. And then just kind of gets weird. All the phrasing gets just like grip, gaffer, HMU, all that. But we're going to talk about the 1AC, the first AC.
The first AC.
Yeah. So what does a first AC do?
So primarily the main thing they do, is they pull focus. Yeah. They are the one in charge of keeping whatever the shot is, the object in the shot is in focus.
Yeah.
But they also are the head of the camera department, and they literally assist the camera. Whatever the camera needs, they are the assistant to the camera. So batteries, cards, lenses, they change the lenses. They build the camera when they get on set. They tear down the camera when they're done. Literally anything has to do with the camera, they tend to it.
Yeah. So like building out the camera, that's a big deal because with a lot of our shoots, it's not just like we just take a camera, pull it out of the bag and just start filming.
Right.
I mean, we're using professional Hollywood level cameras.
Right.
So there's special mounts that we got to make sure that we have. There's special lenses we have to be sure what's on. There's follow focuses that we attach to it and certain wireless stuff and certain needs. Like for instance, we were mounting to a Steadicam for the Greenville tourism shoot. So, that had specific things that need to be on it and need to be off of it. I mean, there's just all these details. Mm-hmm. So usually you and I sit down, or you'll sit down with the director before a shoot and say, okay, you ask like, okay, what gear do we need? And what does it need to look like? And then you just like prepare it the day before, I guess. Yeah.
Well, pre-production of, you're just making sure the gear that we need is, on the truck and charged. Yeah. If it, whatever has the batteries. We also have different types of cameras. So sometimes we may use one as opposed to the other. Yeah. Or all of them. Yeah. It's a big shoot. Prepping that, make sure we have the right lenses for that day. So a lot of pre-production that goes into that as well. But yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that there. Then on set, while you're on set, you're then building out any kind of extra things that need to be on the camera, making sure that it's all fine tuned and ready to go. All the settings are right because
all the settings are right. Also, I think a good first AC will make sure that all the cords are nice and neat.
Yes,
it can be a hot mess.
Yes.
Which, if we're in a hurry, I admit sometimes I leave it in a hot mess and it's like, we need this camera now. Here you go.
Here it is. Cords are everywhere. We always joke that the camera needs to be Instagrammable. Like it needs to be able to like take a picture of it. It looks pretty.
Yeah. Put the matte box on, but we don't need it. I don't care.
Make it look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's some of the stuff. We build a camera. You're responsible for everything with the camera. And then pulling focus. We kind of like alluded to that.
Yeah.
A lot of times people, like you're off in the corner doing something special. And people are like, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah. If they're not familiar with our industry, that is the number one question. They see me off in a corner with this little device. Actually, hold on.
Yeah, go get it. So we have it off screen, but he's going to grab something special. And if you are not a viewer of the podcast, if you're just listening to it, you're going to get no value out of this. But if you want to see it, we have the video on Facebook, and you want to check it out. We'll show you these gizmos here.
So usually I use this monitor. It's a small monitor. It's nice and compact. The brand we use is Small HD, and it transmits everything from the camera straight to this. And and we can add a effect to it where it shows everything is in black and white, but whatever is in focus is in color or a certain color. Like we use red or green sometimes, just depends. And so that's how you know what is in focus. And then we have this other device, which is the focus puller. And it's a little wheel that you spin. And as you spin the wheel, whatever is in focus changes. So this control transmits to the device that attaches to the lens, and it rotates the focus wheel so that you're able to, control it wirelessly, which is really cool. You're just like not anywhere near the camera. I mean, you should be within close proximity, because you're tending to the camera, but you're not even like no cords or anything, and you're like controlling that, which I think is really neat. Just kind of nerd out on something like that.
Yeah, and it's a great investment for our company because it helps our projects go faster for our clients and gives them a really good product. So anything that we shoot, we want to make sure that our clients know exactly what's being shot, and they can approve it, look at it, and like it. So,
right, yeah.
So we do all wireless imaging. So the clients have their own monitor that's nice and big and full color. It's not black and white like yours is.
Right, yeah.
But then we also wirelessly send signal to you. We'll wirelessly send signal to, sometimes I want my own monitor, I'm a little bougie like that, and I'll walk around with my own little monitor. All these things help us move faster and make sure we get it right. And it's cool. It's cool watching you at work. Let me say, you are a master at it. You do such a good job.
It was definitely a learned skill. It did not start that way.
It's tough, man.
It is very hard. Which at first I thought that can't be that hard. You literally just put it with some focus. But the challenge is when you have things that move. So if it's somebody who's just like, you're doing, let's say an interview shot, it's just a talking head, you set it and you're pretty much set unless this person moves a lot, like leaning forward or back. But other than that, we're doing any kind of shoot with anybody walking or any kind of camera movement, dollying, that causes challenges. So you're completely in control of keeping it in focus. And if you fail at your one thing that you're supposed to do, everybody else has to reset and do the entire shot again. So it doesn't, depending on, how big of a shoot, it can add some pressure, but also it's kind of fun. So
because like you're setting up for something. If like the smoke has to be just right, or there's animals or kids, it's just all these things, these variables you kind of want just right, and you call action. It's up to the first AC to just make sure they nail it as well as they can, and then we try to. We try to make sure, and we're probably getting the weeds of all the nerd talk, but like we try to make sure that we're giving you a chance, because like there's times where you can make the lenses like barely be in focus, where just like the eyelashes are in focus, but the ears are out of focus with the focal plane, and there's stuff we can do to make sure your life isn't a living hell. What was your most difficult focus pull? Is there one that like scars you?
There's
like
a couple that come
screaming?
to mind. Yeah, one of them was we were filming. Oh, thank you. Yes, podcast etiquette. Stay close to your microphone. One that comes to mind is we were filming a video for a leaf blower manufacturer, and we started the shot. The camera was looking down the barrel of the leaf blower, and the fan rotating inside was supposed to be in focus. And then once the director called action, the guy holding leaf blower walks away from the shot, and the focus needed to then be racked to the logo on the very back end of the leaf blower. Meanwhile, the talent holding the leaf blower is continually walking away. So then you had to pull back, find the logo, follow them. Another element to all of this is that we were dollying from left to right at the same time.
So the camera's
on
moving.
The slides. So the camera's moving as well. And on top of all that, we had the pressure of losing daylight, because this was one of the last shots of the day we did outside. And so I had a lot of pressure. And I think my hands got a little sweaty, but
man.
And then another, I guess more generic shots are just whenever there's people running. We did a commercial in Daytona, and we had to like get a kid running at the camera and like very quickly, but the depth of focus was very short, very small, but like trying to keep their face in focus. That was hard, which it doesn't add too much pressure if it's something we can keep doing over and over. But when we have a time crunch, that's the pressure points. We also have done stuff like, shooting zoo animals. Let me rephrase that. Not shooting zoo animals. We film some.
That's a good clarification to say. That's good.
That'd be a dark video.
It would be dark. It also probably illegal, I would say.
Yeah.
If they're zoo animals.
Filming zoo animals and like the monkeys like to run around all over the place.
Yeah.
Very
erratic.
It's not as pressure because it's not like we can say, all right, monkey, reset. Let's do that again.
Right.
It's just wherever they're at, just following them in focus. So, but yeah, those are a few that come to mind.
And it's tricky. It's tricky when the object that you're supposed to be in focus with is moving.
Right.
But then when you have the dynamics of the camera moving as well, if you were sitting on the camera and could feel it moving, I think that would probably help you because you get those cues, of like movement. But when you're just standing there and you're just standing still and there's this image that's changing and it's
absolutely.
This is the reason why I'm not a first AC. This is why I don't do it. It's stressful.
It is, but I enjoy it. So yeah.
You're incredible at it, man. So you're also over the rest of the camera department too. So for bigger shoots, they have like the second AC and all this is, it's crazy how all this has been, kind of set from tradition, because like even if you go to a Hollywood set, we're doing it similar to or the same as a Hollywood set would do it, where you have, director DP, first AC, second AC, and so on and so forth. But like the second AC goes and fetches the lenses. The first AC is traditionally always supposed to stay there.
Right.
On bigger sets, if like the first AC needs to walk away from the camera during an active set, like you go to the restroom or something like that, the second AC has to stand there with the camera, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's super interesting.
Yeah. It kind of, before I knew all of the terms for film sets, what everybody's role was, I thought a first AC was, I heard the word assistant in the title and I thought they were kind of like a PA, a production assistant. And I was like, well, that's not a very important job. I was like, no disrespect to PAs, but it's just kind of like, well, what do they do? Do they go get the coffee? And then like when I learned, I'm like, oh, they have a lot they got to do.
Yeah.
The camera work is a lot. And
it's intense.
Yeah. Lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere with that. But
no worries. What's your favorite thing about being a first AC?
There's two things I like about it. One is I really like the challenge of it with the pressure. I mean, it is pressure, but it's also kind of fun. It's like I kind of get in my own head and I like to kind of tune out everything else going on within reason. You got to listen to direction,
sure.
But I like to kind of just tune out everything and it's just me and focusing on the object. And it's almost like a video game. I'm sitting there with the little wheel and probably people think I'm really weird over there in the corner. Like, but it's fun to, just see if I can keep it in focus. Sometimes I'm like talking to myself like, oh, yes, a little closer. Oh, I lost it.
That's good.
And then the other thing I like about it is that the first AC is really the person who gets to tell the story. The director is obviously directing the story, but the first AC controls the focus. They control where the their eyes are drawn to.
Yeah, because your eyes naturally drawn to something in focus.
Exactly. So whatever's in focus, and like, the term racking in focus means you just go from one thing in focus to the other. So like we may rack from, one person who's having an emotional breakdown and then like it goes to another actor who, so their eyes are drawn from that person to the other person. And it's like, they're in control of that. They get to tell the story. So I really love that. So.
That's great. So why would we use a first AC, especially in the focus pulling, like manually pulling focus versus just doing it automatically? And there's so many cameras out there now that are starting to do that,
Right. And, as the industry grows, like the autofocus on cameras are getting really good.
Yeah, it really is.
So creepy how smart they get.
Yeah.
And before I answer, like even like the latest iPhones, I think, have a feature where it's like kind of like a smart autofocus. Yeah. Where they just kind of follow whoever's. Yeah. Which, it's like, hey, that's not, the problem is, that's not actually what I wanted in focus.
Right.
So there's your answer is you get full control over what's in focus and for how long. And, and autofocus isn't always perfect. Sometimes it's like, it usually most cameras these days, it'll aim for their face. You'll see on the screen, you'll have like a little box that most people know what I'm talking about, even on your phones.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the box is like, oh, now it's on their chest.
Yeah.
Or it's behind them, the person behind them, or that's a painting in the background of somebody's face that it's now racked to. And it's like, why is that in focus? Yeah. So it gives you full control over it. You don't have to worry about you don't have to rely on. You're not at the mercy of the technologies, how good it is. So.
Yeah, exactly. Good, well said. Yeah, in the we found that it doesn't save time.
Yeah.
to autofocus. It really doesn't. Right. And especially like if you have someone, for instance, that they're modeling a product or something, if they're holding it up, the camera's going to be like, oh, we want the, you want the face in focus, obviously. Yeah. It's like, no, we actually want the product in focus.
Right,
and,
yeah.
Yeah, there's just a lot of variables that you can't overcome. So we found it's better just to get yourself a John, and just to get yourself some follow focus gear and do it manually.
Yeah.
It's so much better.
Yeah.
So thanks for walking us through the first AC,
absolutely.
all the roles that a first AC does.
That's
cool. It's a very fascinating department and skill, and I love hearing about it and sharing that with others. What's something that you're digging?
I have recently been getting back into reading a lot recently. Like I kind of haven't been really reading much.
Yeah.
And so like the past 2 weeks, I just kind of was like, I need to really read. I think it's important. And it's just nice to take your brain off of a screen. And like recently during lunch breaks, I've been, instead of spending my lunch break looking at more screens after spending a whole day looking at screens,
guilty.
I've been like, hey, I'll go read a book for 30 minutes or something,
good.
And it's like, it's so refreshing too. And just coming back, like my eyes have been off the screen for 30 minutes, you know.
And your brain is engaged in a different way.
Exactly. It is. Yeah. So that's kind of something I've been getting back into.
Are you a fiction guy, nonfiction guy?
Mainly fiction.
Yeah.
Like currently I'm reading like 3 different books. Just like 2 of them are spiritual books that I've been reading during my quiet times. And then I also have like a fiction book that I read for fun. So
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
What about you?
I am digging Ben Rector right now. He's an artist that has been is dripping out his latest album. So he dropped like 3 tracks, and then I think the 4th one is dropping soon. If by the time people listen to this, it might have already dropped.
So I know at the time of this recording, he just recently had an EP. Is that's your?
Yes, that's the one that he's and he hasn't dropped
it.
Called?
Something about joy, right?
Yeah, the joy of something, the joy of music or something.
Yeah, I think that's it. So that is actually you're saying there's going to be like a full album to that?
Yes. So he's dropped 3, and as of this recording, I think that his next one's being dropped tomorrow, and then the rest I think are in March, and it's like all these interesting artists that he hasn't like dropped yet. So like one Snoop Dogg, which I'm like, and if you know, like his stuff is very like I don't know. It's more of a folk kind of sound, like it's definitely not rap or in Snoop Dogg's genre at all. So I'm very curious to see how that works.
Yeah,
but I love singer songwriters. I like people that write their own music, and there's there's some kind of a connection there to it.
I also love Ben Rector. He's his lyrics just seem so real to life, like not faking it. It's just like telling it how it is, and he's very unique in his sound as well, and just a very gifted artist.
So he's not coming to Greenville yet. It hasn't been announced that he's coming. So I'm sure Ben listens to this podcast.
Yes.
So Ben,
hey Ben,
hey buddy, like come to Greenville, but man, I'll buy a ticket.
We'll have you on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But only if you pay, because this is exclusive. Also, you owe me $20 for talking about your house. I know I'm really going to have you move it. All right. So on that ridiculousness,
we
probably should say goodbye.
We should.
If anybody wants to know more about what we do, we're all over the place. Where are we?
The internet.
We're on the internet. So nicey.org, Instagram.
What else are we on?
Facebook.
What are we on?
Facebook, Twitter. We're on all the socials.
We're on Twitter.
You really knocked out of the park, I gotta say. Like when I threw that call to action to you, you did such a good job.
Thanks. So prepared.
So, all right. On that note, we'll see everybody next time. Thanks for watching.
See ya.
I'm gonna cheat. I'm gonna look down. I'm just gonna look down. I'm gonna cheat.
I'll do the looking.
Look, I tell you. You should never record a podcast before lunch.
But then after lunch, you could say, "Man, we should not have done this after lunch."
We're gonna talk about wabbits on this podcast.